with leaders that have already been having conversations, part of what we want to do is make sure that we're building off of that. And so it's great. Often folks have started talking about potentially combining, sometimes months or years in advance of formally starting a process, and that creates a great foundation on which to start the process. But what I've seen a lot of is once we get into much more of a structured conversation, once that table is broadened to include other perspectives and folks with different goals or interests, that often we start to see different things. And that's one of the beauties of just diving into the process and getting started, is that as it becomes more real and not just an informal conversation every once in a while between colleagues or friends, you start to really get a sense of what are those things that matter the most to each organization and how they have a vision for carrying out their mission. And getting into those structured conversations allows people to really spend some time thinking through what that can and should look like, building excitement, drawing other people in, and figuring out what makes the most sense for them.
And I think one of the people that we always recommend from each side is someone who's a skeptic. And the organizations may have had those conversations previously, but not included those people due to that. So having those people pulled into the room and having that additional perspective is really helpful.
And I also think if they've had conversations in the past, I'd like to write those out and kind of parrot them back to them and say, okay, so I understand that you've agreed to these 10 points. And sometimes, once they see that written out, it becomes clear that, no, there's some more work to do here. And it helps them kind of think about how they think they've made some resolution, but there's really a lot more details that they need to go into. It helps them, I think, have a framework for that.
And how about the role of a third party? How do you talk with folks about the value of a third party kind of framing and driving the conversation?
I try to be as open as frank with them about it. And I tell them, whether you're working with us or somebody else, that the benefit of a third party really is somebody to drive and guide the process that you most likely have not been involved in. While it's something that somebody could probably, two organizations could probably get through on their own, the benefit really lies in having somebody with experience kind of play that neutral party that has the best interests of both organizations at hand, kind of moving it forward. So to me, it's really a matter of, you could probably go about it on your own, but you're going to be more effective, timely, and more likely to reach a good decision if you had somebody to guide you there.
Yeah, I sometimes say, if you need to have heart surgery, you don't really want to go to the heart surgeon who's only done one heart surgery a year. You want to go to somebody who's, done a lot of heart surgeries, hundreds, maybe thousands. And I think the advantage to working with a consultant who's worked on nonprofit collaborations and partnerships and mergers is that we've seen so many of them, and we can adjust our process. We have a framework, we can adjust it. It's often the cadence of projects that changes unexpectedly. We either have to slow things down or we have to speed things up. And I think that, having a lot of experience and having somebody to guide you through those kinds of shifts is really helpful. I find most of my clients really appreciate having a neutral party, because otherwise they're kind of talking at each other sometimes, and especially when there's some conflict or there's a disagreement about how to resolve something, it's hard to do that when it's just the two entities or multiple entities. And having a neutral party that can kind of referee that and create space to have conversations that aren't so tense or emotional or combative is really helpful.